All right, Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. This is Brother Warriala, and this is my channel, Rise Up Israel. First and foremost, I would like to give all honor and glory to the Heavenly Father, who the world will call God, whose real name is Yahweh. And I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world will call Jesus Christ, whose name is Yahweh Shai in the Paleo Hebrew. But before we get started, I just want give the title of the video, as you can see, which says "Guard Your Minds." In these last days, man, it's definitely important to have your minds guarded, right? And that's something that we see the apostles speak of, and really all the men of Israel, the righteous brothers of Israel, mentioning in the scriptures. We see Paul in the book of Romans, chapter 13, where he speaks of this, right? So this is Romans chapter 13:11. It says, "And that, knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed." So we understand that our salvation is coming, but now it's even closer than what we would actually think. And that's very applicable to the time that we're in now, because now we're in the time of the Great Awakening, which is tied to biblical prophecy. The Israelites waking up in the land of their captivity, them repenting from their sins, and then them being delivered, right? So that's literally what we're waiting for. So this verse right here, it ties in perfectly to the biblical narrative, right? And I can just grab this real quick in Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 1, and it says, "And it shall come to pass when all these things when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee." So we see that a time will come when the blessings and the curses will have come on Israel, and when they're in the land of their captivities, when they're among the nations, they're going to remember these things, right? It says that thou shalt call them to mind among the nations. Why would the Israelites have to call them the scriptures to mind among the nations? Because that's which is going to explain in the next verse, because it's going to provoke them to serve the Most High God. All right, verse 2 says, "And shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thy heart and with all thy soul." So we see that there will come a time where the Israelites are going to be in a foreign nation. The curses will come upon them, the blessings will come upon them, and they would call those things to mind among the nations. But then you see the Christian church that tells you that Deuteronomy 28 was never really looked at as a fulfillment of prophecy until the Israelites said it. Well, Deuteronomy 30 tells you that Deuteronomy 28 is used for the exact same purpose that we use it for. But let's keep going. It says, "And thou shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thy heart, with all thy soul, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity." Meaning, after we've turned to the Most High God, then the Lord is going to turn our captivity and have compassion on thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God had scattered thee. So wherever the Most High scattered the Israelites, they're going to turn to the Most High God, they're going to keep his commandments, and then he's going to return and have compassion on them and bring them back into the land. So as we go back into the book of Romans, chapter 13, and verse 11, and we hear Paul says, "And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to wake out of sleep." Now is the time to call these things to mind. The time that we're in is the time to call to mind the blessings and the curses that our forefathers had, right? "For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed." So now we see that the deliverance that we see in Deuteronomy 30 and in other books and chapters and verses, we see that that's a lot closer than what we've seen previously. You know, you know, as crazy as it is, Moses was the guy that saw this. He didn't live that out. You know, the apostles didn't live this out. The prophecies that we see coming to pass now. with the Israelites being in the land of their captivity and calling these things to mind, right? Let's keep reading. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness. Again, this ties into the narrative. Because we know that salvation is nigh unto us, it's time for us to cast off the works of darkness, which would be sin, right? Which is literally what we see in Deuteronomy 30, that the Lord tells, has Moses prophesy. Moses tells the Israelites, when you're scattered into all these nations, you're going to remember yourselves. You're going to wake up out of your sleep, and you're going to keep the laws of God, aka putting off the works of darkness, that then your salvation will come. That simple, right? It says, let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying. So we see that in these last days, the Israelites will be turning to the Most High God, right? And that's something that we should have in our minds. So when Paul speaks of these things, when Peter, which I'm going to bring up later, speaks of these things, we see that they're speaking of a time that is more applicable to us than anybody else, or a time that is more applicable to our time that we're in right now, rather than the time that even they were in. Because we're extremely close, and we see how close we are, right? Let me grab this real quick in Hosea. Chapter 4 or 5. Salakia, yeah, chapter 5, right? Bear with me, Salakia. See, can't even grab it. Bear with me. You know what? Salakia, bear with me. All right, bet. So this is Hosea chapter 5 and verse 15. It says this. I'll start at verse 14. It says, I will be unto Ephraim as a lion, and as a young lion to the house of Judah. Even I will tear and go away. I will take away, and none shall rescue him. I will go and return to my place. Listen, what we just seen is the Most High being done with Israel, right? He's going to be as a lion to Ephraim and as a young lion to the house of Judah, and he will tear and go away, and none is going to rescue Israel, right? I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense and seek my face. In their affliction, they will seek me early. So we see that when Israel is cast out of the Most High sight, they're going to come to turn to the Lord, and they're going to want to come to the Most High, and they're going to want to, keep the Most High's laws, right? Chapter 6, verse 1, which is just a continuation of chapter 5. It says, come, let us return unto the Lord, for he hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. So this is kind of the narrative that we've seen throughout the scriptures. We see this in the book of Judges. We see this all over the scriptures, where Israel goes off and they turn to the Most High God, right? Understanding that now is the greatest of times to turn to the Lord. It would behoove us to go 10 times harder, right? To seek the Lord 10 times more. But let's go to book of 2 Peter, actually. 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 10, and it says this. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away, and a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burnt up. So we understand that the time is going to come where everything that we see around us is going to be utterly burnt, and is going to be completely obliterated and burned away, right? It says the elements shall melt, meaning you're going to see buildings melting. You're going to see streets turn into tar and pitch. You're going to see houses completely burned down, communities completely destroyed, cities, nations completely burnt up, right? Understand that you're going to see all these things. Let's read verse 11. Seeing then that all these things all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? So, understanding that all this is going to be destroyed. You ought to be in all holy conversation and godliness, because you know that these things, this is how things are going to end, right? It's much like when Christ talked to told the disciples, like, look, you see all these buildings standing around us? These are all going to be torn down. And you're talking about how nice it is, you know? Look, just get a good look at how beautiful Babylon the Great is, how beautiful all these cities are, and understand that these cities were built that they can be destroyed, that the Most High's name can be magnified. Right? Let's keep going. Looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens, being on fire, shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Right? So, what manner of person ought you to be, knowing that these things are going to be the case? Right? And that's the whole point of today's video, is to put things into perspective. We understand that when we're sharp, when we're on point with things, we can be, we can be vigilant, right? We can be ready, we can be, on point. But as I said, the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night. We see that we might fall asleep. We might kind of get lulled to sleep. We might be quickly turned off by the idea of salvation coming because of the ways of the world, right? Let's keep going real quick. I got a verse that could speak to this, right? There we go. Verse 9, it says, how long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, so shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man. So it's telling you that just a little sleep, just a little slumber, just a little folding of the hands, and boom, you done missed the thief. The thief then came, took your stuff, and then went. Again, the point that I'm making is that in our right mind, in our sober mind, we see these things coming and we want to prepare. But when that other mind hits, where we're like, damn, I wasn't even thinking. I wasn't even watching. I had no idea. I had paid no attention to the things that were going on in the earth. And that's an important thing that we ought to do. Of course, watching, the prophecies and things like that, but also watching our spirit, right? Another account real quick. Bear with me. Salakia. Bear with me. I always miss this. Salakia, bear with me. This is 924, 923, 21 for sure, 21, 26. Bear with me. Salakia, bear with me. Okay. I think it is 25. It's gotta be. No, I don't think it is. Okay. There we go. Bear with me, Salakia. There we go. Salakia 26 and 38. All right, sorry, I was looking for this verse, right? So, real quick, this is Matthew 26 and 37. It says, I'll start at 36, and it says, then come Jesus with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and saith unto them, unto the disciples, sit thou here while I go and pray yonder. And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then saith he unto them, My soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here, and watch with me. And he went a little further, and fell on his face, and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. Right? And he cometh unto the disciples, and findeth them asleep, and saith unto Peter, What, could ye not watch with me for 1 hour? So he's talking to Peter, and he's like, man, could you even watch with me for an hour? You couldn't even stay up for an hour. So understand that in those times where it's most important for us to be awake, we might fall off and fall asleep. And it's important to kind of make sure you take heed to your spirit. That's why Christ says his next verse right after it. He says, watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation, for the spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. So our spirit might really have the mind to the intention or the intent to want to serve the Lord and to want to keep his commandments. But then that weak nature can always come on us. That's why it's important that we ought to watch and pray. It's important to watch our spirit and to pray. It's important to guard our minds, right? One more scripture that we see in Ezra. And again, this wasn't meant to be a super long video, just to put things into perspective, not just for, the viewers watching, but also for myself, right? This is 2nd Ezra chapter 14 and verse 13. It says this, Now therefore set thine house in order, and reprove thy people, comfort such of them as be in trouble, and now renounce corruption. So the things we got to do in these last days is to set our household in order, not just our family, but our spirit, our temple. Set our temple in order. Reprove our people, meaning help those of us that need to be brought into this faith. Comfort such of them as be in trouble, and now renounce corruption, meaning put off the weak nature, right? Verse 14, it says, Let go from the mortal thoughts, cast away the burdens of man, and put off the weak nature. So when it tells you to let go of mortal thoughts, it's telling you to stop sinning. Stop engaging in the lust of the flesh, right? Stop falling into wickedness. Whatever spirits you might have, stop it. And set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee, and haste thee to flee from these times. So it's important for us to want to haste to flee from these times. We want to stay away from we want to escape from the times that we're going to head into. Understanding that this is not the world that was for us, right? And again, we can even stay in Ezra's and go to Ezra chapter 8 and 1, 2nd Ezra 8 and 1, where it says, And he answered me, saying, The Most High hath made this world for many, but the world to come for few, right? The Lord made this world for many. Whose world is this? This is Esau's world. But the world to come, which is Jacob's world, which is the world of Israel, the kingdom of Israel, he only made for a few people. So keep these things in mind. And we can just finish off with this verse, maybe another verse after this, where it says, 2nd Ezra 7 and 42, and it says, And he answered me and said, This present life is not the end, where much glory doth abide. Therefore have they prayed for the weak. So the end of this world, everything you've seen going on with the Epstein Trust, Epstein files, and the war in Iran, and whatever you see, whatever is going on in the world right now, understand that this is not going to end well. This isn't going to end well. This world is not going to end on a good note. It's going to end in destruction. All right? It's going to end in wickedness for this country, for this world. That whole "the world is yours" spirit. No, this world ain't ours. This ain't our world. This ain't where this isn't where we want to be at, right? But let's keep reading. It says, But the day of doom shall be the end of this time, and the beginning of immortality to come. wherein corruption is past. So we see that it's important for us to understand, Salakia. It's important for us to understand that this present time that we're in is the last time. This is it, and it's not gonna end well. It's not gonna end good for anybody outside of the elect of Israel. Though outside of those that's keeping the Most High's commandments, everybody else is gonna end pretty disgusting and pretty vulgar and bitter, and it's going to be an evil end. So it's important to just keep these things in mind as we continue in this walk, and focus on serving the Most High God and keeping His commandments. I want to grab another verse in the GNT. Bear with me. It says 2nd Ezra, chapter 16, and if I'm not mistaken, verse 40. Of course, they want these damn pop-ups. Salakia. All right, check this out, right? Again, bear with me. This is a little, I'll just read it if you can't see it, right? So it says this. It says, listen to this. This is 2nd Ezra, chapter 16 and 40 in the GNT. And it says, listen to this message, my people. There we go, Salakia. It says, listen to this message, my people, and get ready for the battle. When the disasters come, you must live as people whose home is not in this world. Right? So understand that the time is going to come where we must live as people whose homes is not of this world. Right? So keep these things in mind, that we're not from here and we want to take part in the world to come. Right? Last verse, Lord willing. Unless something comes back, unless the Spirit causes it to continue. This is the book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 34. And it says this, and take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and the cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. Right? So we don't want this day to come upon us unawares. So that's why we want to take heed to ourselves. Right? Let's keep going. For as a snare shall it come unto all them that dwell in the face of the earth. Watch ye therefore and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and stand before the Son of Man. That's it. With that, I have to give honor and glory to the Most High God, and name His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. Lord willing, this edifying video through the Spirit, man. Kwame Yasharala. Shalom.